Introduction to CSS. As we discussed in our previous chapters, the primary reason to use Ajax is that it enables us to update a page without refreshing it. So far, we've just seen how to display the downloaded data by overwriting the div tags, etc. But most of the time, these sort of updatings might not be noticed by the user. So in order to draw the user's attention to the changes, we must present the downloaded data in a pleasant way. Say, for instance, displaying the downloaded data in a flash of color and something like that. One of the best ways to do that is by using cascading style sheet. Hence, it plays a very important key role in Ajax. Let's discuss more about it. Before getting into the topic, let's see what CSS is. This CSS is a formal specification for arranging and styling items in web pages. Say, for example, we can set the data's fonts, color, appearance, visibility, etc. using this CSS. So here in Ajax, we are going to use this CSS to update the downloaded data. So it's time to start. CSS syntax. CSS syntax is made up of three parts: a selector, a property, and a value. Look here. This selector is normally the HTML element, which we wish to define. This property is the attribute which we wish to change, and this is the value which we are going to set to it. And see? This property and value are separated by colons and enclosed inside the curly braces. Okay, I hope you are clear with the syntax. Now, let's see one example. Here this body is the HTML tag, and this color is the property, and here we've assigned the value blue to it. Say if you would like to specify more than one property, for example, then we have to separate each property by semicolons, like here. Do you understand? We can also define CSS using the class name as a selector. So with this class selector, we can define different styles for the same type of HTML element. Let's say we would like to give two different paragraphs, one right-aligned and one center-aligned. Let's see how we can do this. In this case, we have to use the class attribute to access the particular HTML element. Now look at these lines. This paragraph tag has a class name right. So here we used this class name and assigned some property. Similarly, we can also define styles for HTML elements using the ID selector. This ID selector is defined with sharp symbol. That's the hash symbol. This property is mostly used in cases where we'd like to apply different style properties for the same HTML element. Fine, now look at this example. This style rule is applied to the element that has an ID attribute with a value of green. Okay, well I hope you've got some good ideas about CSS. Now let's see how to implement this in Ajax in our next tutorial. Getting the user's attention. One of the main advantages of the Ajax is also its serious issue. Yes, as we discussed previously, downloading data without page refresh sometimes misses the user's attention. There are various ways to address this issue, but the easiest way is to display the downloaded data in different ways, and that should stand out in some way. Well, in this tutorial, we are going to see one example, which will display a text in red for 1 second after it's downloaded. And then after that, the text will go back to black. This is a great way to make our data stand out and get noticed, right? Okay, let's look at its script. See, here we have one button with the value Get the Text, and div tag to display the downloaded text. As soon as the user clicks this button, it will make a call to this function Get Data, and here we are passing the text file name and ID of the div tag as its argument. Fine, now let's see what we do in the function Get Data. This part we know, right? Yes, here we are creating the object. So as soon as the object is created, we are making requests to the text file. Once the proper response has arrived, we are setting its color as red and placing it in a div tag. And here we are changing the color of the text to black after 1 second with the help of this JavaScript function setTimeout. See here we have passed the name of another JavaScript function, attention getting, and the amount of time we want to elapse before JavaScript calls this function. And note that this time should be in milliseconds. So here we set 1000. So after 1 second, this function calls this function. See again, here we are accessing the div tag and setting its color as black. Am I clear? Good. Now let's run this script. Now let's click this button. See? The color has changed, right? Yes, okay. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. We'll catch you in our next tutorial. Manipulating the size and shape of the text. Besides making the text flash in color, like what we did in our previous tutorial, we have various other options in CSS to draw the user's attention towards the downloaded text. Say, for example, we can enlarge the text temporarily, display it in bold, underline it, or we can use some other text styles. CSS supports many text styles. We can use them to make our downloaded text stand out. Let's see a few important text styles in CSS. See, these are the different text style properties, and here is its description. Let's see our first style property. This font family property is used to specify the type of font which we would like to use. Say, for example, Arial, Calibri, etc. This font style property is used to specify how the text is rendered. Similarly, all these properties have its own speciality, so we can make use of them. The only thing we need is we should be aware of all the style properties. Well, now let's try to implement all the above discussed style properties in one example. This example sets the styles of the body tag. In addition to the JavaScript tag, we have one more tag called style. This is used to set the styles for the web page, and this tag will usually go in the head part of a web page. See, using the style rules, we have applied different style properties for this body tag, like font style, font weight, font family, and so on. Similarly, here we are using the ID selector property to apply style to the div tag. See, this target div is the ID of the div tag. Okay, now just look here. Here we have used one button, so when the user clicks this button, it will underline the text. So to underline the text here, we use the text decoration property, and here we assigned it with the value underline. But in JavaScript, we use this property without hyphen. So I hope you now understand why we used it like this, right? Well, now let's run this script. See? Our text looks so stylish, doesn't it? Okay, now let's click this button. You could view the difference, right? Good. Like this, we can apply different style properties to the text to draw the user's attention. Let's see a few other options in our next tutorial. Controlling color and background. In CSS, we have a number of properties to set the color and backgrounds of web pages. Actually, these properties let us to control the background color of an element, set an image as a background, or to repeat a background image, and so on. Let's see and discuss them briefly. See, these are the few important properties which allow us to set the color and background. This property color is used to set the foreground color, where this background color property is used to set the background color. Similarly, we do have other properties like background image, background repeat, background position, and so on. Each of these properties have their own functionality, which has been described in this column, so just have a wee glance over it. Well, now let's discuss all these properties with one example. So far, we've seen how to use the internal style sheet, where the style's been defined with a unique tag called style. But see, in this example, we are using inline styles. That is, the styles that have been defined inside the HTML element itself. So here we have defined the styles like font size and font weight inside this div tag itself. And here we are setting a color and background color to this div tag. Well now, look at this form here. We have one button with the value change background color. So as soon as we click this button, the background color of this div has to change. But see here, we have many div tags. So to access this particular div, we have used the ID attribute. Now this line will set the background color of this div to purple. Fine. I hope you've got a good idea about the script. Let's see how it outputs. Isn't it nice to see? Yes. Now let's click this button. Wow, it's really nice. Actually, it'll be very interesting to work with this CSS. We allow us to do whatever we wish, really, and make our website more colourful. So I hope you've loved to learn more about it. Yes? Well, let's see more about it in our next tutorial.